Philip Charlier, a forensic anthropologist and medical historian, led a team to make a 3D face of a skull believed to be Mary Magdalene's. This was based on relics kept in a church in France. The bishop of the diocese associated with the relics of Mary Magdalene asked for an expert to examine them. This was to help verify if they are genuine, which has been a debate since the 1600s. Because they couldn't remove the skull from its box, 3D software was used to capture over 400 photos of the skull from all sides. This allowed them to create a digital model. They used a computer technique called facial reconstruction. This involved making a 3D model of the skull from the many photos using photogrammetry. They also used scientific methods, including a scanning electron microscope and an X-ray spectrometer, to study a strand of hair with the skull. They found traces of clay on the hair, which might mean she used clay to dye her hair or to protect herself from fleas and lice. Based on his experience, it's believed that she was a woman from the Mediterranean region in her 50s with dark brown hair. Despite the traditional beliefs, he admitted that there was no way to be completely sure the skull was Mary Magdalene's. He explained that the identification has not been fully confirmed, but the project was still important because it gave a possible identity to the skull. The team created a realistic face based on the shape and features of the skull. Dr. Charlier said more tests were needed to be certain, but the decision to continue is up to the bishop, while the final choice lies with the Pope. He also hopes to do more DNA tests later to gain further insight into her background. However, the Church has not allowed for small pieces of the skull to be taken for testing. Following the execution of St. James in Jerusalem, the persecutions were amplified. Lazarus and Martha were thrown into prison, and Mary Magdalene, having wanted to visit them, was made a prisoner, along with other members of the Christian community. The Jews were afraid that they might publicly be executed, so they put the three of them in a boat. They later ended in the southern area on the shores of France. They travelled to Marseille, where Lazarus became a bishop and baptized many, while Martha went to other towns. Mary Magdalene went into a cave to live a life of prayer and penance, and is believed to have died near St. Maximin. For centuries, her exact burial site was unknown. Later, in 1279, people found a papyrus inside a tomb. It's said that on the 6th of December in 710, her body was moved during the night to a marble one. It was done secretly because of the threat from the Saracens, a group who at that time were considered enemies. They also removed the body of Sidonius to keep her hiding place more secure. The tomb and her relics were discovered again on the 9th of December in 1279 by the nephew of St. Louis. It was also recognized by an assembled clergy of the dioceses of Provence. The discovery was made in the presence of many church leaders. When the sarcophagus was opened, all who were present testified to a wonderful and very sweet smell. They were reminded of the perfume which Saint Mary Magdalene poured on the Lord's feet before his death. In 1279, on the 18th of December, they discovered writing inside a marble coffin. The writing was on a piece of papyrus dated the year 710. It's said that the bones in the coffin belonged to Saint Mary Magdalene. However, some bones were missing, specifically the lower leg and jaw. On the 5th of May in 1280, during the solemn elevation of her body, a tablet of wood was found smeared with wax, on which it was stated that her body rested there. The age of the tablet was estimated to have ranged from the 1st to the 4th century. A testimonial letter, destined for the Pope, was signed by the 4 Prince Archbishops and 3 bishops. It described these events and was kept for a long time in the reliquary of St. Maximin, along with the translations of 1283 and 1281. On the 6th of April in 1295, the skull from the sarcophagus of St. Maximin was reunited to its lower jaw at St. John Lateran. In 1281, the bones, except for the head, which was missing the lower jaw, were placed in a silver case. In 1660, her relics were moved to a special stone urn that had been blessed in Rome by the Pope. King Louis XIV personally attended this important ceremony and made a pilgrimage to the cave where she lived. Copies of official documents about the discovery of her relics in 1279 and the official transfers of the relics in 1281 and 1283 had been preserved. These documents are stored in the archives of the Monastery of St. Maximin and the Seminary of St. Sulpice. In 1794, during the French Revolution, a thief stole valuable items, including the relics of St. Mary Magdalene. Fortunately, some of them were saved by the sacristan of the church. He managed to save her skull and a glass sphere filled with earth, soaked in Jesus' blood, which was collected by St. Mary Magdalene at the cross. Some devout individuals were also able to save other parts. A piece of the saint's tibia and a lock of hair was taken by Madame Ricard. Fearing punishment, she sought shelter with the Anselm family after fleeing from St. Maximin. The relics remained with the head of the household, Joseph Anselm. One of his grandsons later became a bishop and was given the relics of St. Mary Magdalene. In 1878, Bishop Terrace offered Pope Leo XIII a fragment of her relics, along with some of her hair. In 1884, her relics were given by Bishop Terrace to the diocese. These included a lock of her hair and a part of her right leg bone, which were placed in a reliquary. Her relics has since been kept in the Basilica of St. Maximin.